Previously on To Hell and Back. Oh yeah!
Come on, I got more horsepower.
Oh, this is like the slowest race in history. Oh gee, this is... Come on, Ford. Andre, what are you doing? So I am getting extra traction by putting some truck nuts on my Chevy. All right, Nathan, if you can make it past this pine tree that's in front of me, you have cleared and you have won this challenge. On the last episode, we found out how quick and slow these three trucks are. On this episode, we're getting some professional help, an inspection to find out exactly how good or bad these trucks really are. And then we're also gonna show you exactly which parts from realtruck.com we're gonna get. So first up is my Chevy, because it's the cheapest. And we're here at German Auto in Boulder, Colorado, and our friend Toby, the mechanic, is gonna look them over. So let's go. This is a 1998 Silverado, well actually a Chevy K1500, because the Silverado name was not really attached as a main model for this truck. It's a four-wheel drive, extended cab, two-door. I purchased it for $3,200 for this series.
Alrighty, so I thought I would give a quick check over under here. See how she's looking. Looking visually a little oily, crusty, oily.
What does that look like to you?
To me, that looks like residual over a long period of time. You do not see anything wet below there or dripping down the engine block from the valve cover. So to me, I would just take this thing through the car wash on this behalf and, you know, use some degreaser and try to get it really cleaned up. That way you can visually keep an eye on it. Oh my goodness.
What does that look
That's
like?
your brake fluid, and it's supposed to be clear. So I don't know if you know what clear is, but that's far-fetched from clear. But let's put it this way, that's not the end of the world, because you suck all the fluid out, you get fresh fluid in there, you bleed all the brakes, sets you back for $130.
Okay.
Not the end of the world.
All right, I'm gonna keep a list, okay?
Yeah, keep her coming. Check the power steering fluid. It's full, it's a tad bit dirty. Probably could do a service to it. It should be a red ATF on this thing, and it's turning a little bit brown. What I can tell, someone did some new spark plugs and wires here recently too. They're not that old looking. You can see they're still shiny, and on the cylinder head there are still shiny plugs. So someone did a tune-up on it, so that's good to see.
There's an owner of another Chevy up there trying to check things out.
Yeah, it's making sure we're doing the job right. You know, gotta keep an eye on us. Yeah, overall the drive belt's not cracked, and I don't see any play in the fan clutch or the water pump, so that's good. Overall, from up top, you know, you might get the unsuspecting guy. It's looking pretty decent from what I'm seeing. And it says it's a good battery. It does need a little bit of recharging. The cold cranking amps at this time is a tad bit low. It's 597 and it should be 800. So to me, that battery's good still.
Yeah.
But you know,
best, probably.
I'd give it 2 years, you know, at the most. And this is your engine oil. See the color of it and make sure there's no metal shavings in it, and it actually looks really clean. And this is your transmission fluid. It's pretty red still. Smells good. One thing you do check for in these transmissions is a burn smell, or you know, really brown black fluid. And what we'll do is we'll actually check it when it's supposed to be checked and running in park at idle. So we'll do that here, but I just like to get a quick visual of them. That way you kind of know the condition of it. Well, I think it's time to go up, see what she looks like on the bottom side. Start looking at the frame and make sure your frame looks good and all that. And that's kind of one detail you can tell if she's had any rear end accident or anything. Looks like your spare tire's decent, and it's got air in it, and it's not dry cracked too bad, so worst case scenario, you got a spare for now. Pull some plugs out and check some brakes and see what the brakes look like back here. Looking inside the hole here, there's the drum over here, which is rusted, and the shoe, and then the metal backing of the shoe, and it looks to be about, I'd say about 70% of shoe left, so that's a good sign, good sign. Looking at the shocks here, they definitely look pretty original. I don't, you know, they're not leaking the fluid at this point, but definitely pretty old looking. And here we're just checking the drive shaft, the U-joints. Make sure there's no play in the actual drive line, because that can leave you on the side of a trail real quick. No play that I'm seeing. Alrighty, some more U-joints in the front drive shaft here. Have to be tight. Non-greasable, no grease joint on them. Oh Lord. And that one's tight. As you can see, the trouble begins up front here. You can start seeing the oil coming, and it's starting to run back the tranny pan. So it definitely has an oil leak here that we need to, diagnose for you, and that way we get you a price on it. From what I can see, the highest point of oil is what you're looking for on the vehicle to figure out where the leak's coming from. And the highest point of oil is what they call the oil filters here. And this is an adapter, oil filter adapter housing that bolts to the block, and there's usually an O-ring inside there. I'm guessing that O-ring's just turned dry and started to get hard. So it's gonna need a new O-ring to fix that. Basically, that's the first fix I would like to do on this thing, and then clean everything off spotless at the car wash and see exactly how it's looking. Front shocks are looking dry, but they do look original again. Looking like they've been on the truck for a long time. I'll look at the pad life, it's pushing 25% on the front. Next, we should probably check some of the steering components out and the ball joints, because that's these trucks, on no matter which truck you buy, they all usually need one of them, or some of them. So usually a quick way is to check them with pliers. Good way to check them ball joint wise is on jack stands with big bar, but we'll just do a quick check on these and see how we're looking. And you can see the play in it when I squeeze it, and that's a sign that it's loose internally. The ball and socket's getting loose internally, so it's gonna have to be replaced. Same with this inner. This would be an inner tie rod, and that would have been an outer tie rod end. And you squeeze it, and it's got a tad bit of play as well. Not quite safety yet, but eventually. And this next one is an idler, so it's a pivot actually for the steering components to help it pivot back and forth, and it has the ball and socket as well. And it's tight actually. It'll be the same old. Give it a little squeeze. Actually, it's tight as well. We'll check this is the other left front inner tie rod and see how much play that one has.
Oh yeah, I see that.
You can tell that one's got a lot more than any of them so far. So that's starting to be a safety issue in my opinion. Overall, I am saying that you did a good purchase. Personally,
not too bad. For $3,200.
You are going to be looking, a couple, say, for the oil leaks and everything else. I could see spending a couple thousand more on it easily to make it a really, nice, non-leaking, solid truck. But for what you have, safety-wise, I've seen people buy them for a lot more and need a lot more work and be unsafe to even drive. This is your compressor right here, and the belt spins it, and the clutch on the outside is a magnetic clutch electronically engaged. When you hit the AC button, it kicks the front pulley in. And right now I'm not seeing no pulley engagement. We got our AC button on inside, a recirc button on, we're on cold, and we should have AC, and it's blowing hot as the Sahara Desert in here. So we got some other issues with the AC system. It's going to take some diagnosing to figure it out. My opinion, first thing you do is check the pressures in the AC system. A lot of times you have a small leak and you lose a little bit of pressure, and there's switches, a high and a low switch pressure side, and if it kicks too low or high, it shuts it off and won't engage the compressor. So if you're lucky and it just needs a recharge, probably about 180 bucks for a recharge. Sometimes I'll put some UV dye in them to verify, try to find a leak if it does leak back out. 206,000 miles on it, it's kind of to be expected to have a small leak somewhere. So that's, as long as the recharge will be okay, but you have to have the correct pressures to do more testing on the AC system.
And since my truck is the least expensive at $3,200, I have a little bit of room to play with my parts budget. Here's what I got. I have to get a little lift for my truck. Max Truck leveling kit is very inexpensive, $78. After I get my lift, these are the tires I want to get. Toyo Open Country Mud Terrains. Yes. Each tire is $257. When Roman and Nathan get stuck off-road, I want to be able to pull them out, so I'm going to get a winch. This is a Havoc 9,500 pound winch for $349. I want to be able to mount my winch on the front, but I don't want it to always stay there. So I'm going to get this hitch receiver for the front, $139. I'm going to get this winch cradle, $135. And to protect the stuff in my bed, I'm going to get this Gator FX tonneau cover, $7.99. And this Bulldog winch wiring kit, $74. After all that, my total is $2,606. And the cool thing, I can get all these parts and tires in one place at realtruck.com. Here's the Dodge. This is Nathan's truck. It's a 2001 Dodge Ram 1500 Sport Off-Road Edition. It's pretty cool, but I want to see what Toby has to say about this truck. This Dodge cost Nathan $5,000. Yep, he blew the entire budget on this truck.
Someone put an aftermarket transmission cooler in it, which is actually a good thing. So that's what this unit is here. And you can see a little filter, inline filter. So that's actually a good design because these Dodges are famous for blowing up automatic transmissions. Give it the same check over we gave the other one. Check the radiator, fan clutch, water pump, drive belt looks good. So this is cold air intake.
Yeah.
And you know, the first thing I seen when I seen this cold air intake is the writing on top here.
What is it?
It's pull and save writing. So whoever had this truck before went to the junkyard and pulled this off at the junkyard instead of buying a new one.
Wow.
Transmission. Here I got in my hand, same thing. You get red fluid. Smells good.
Let's see what Nathan has here.
Yeah, it looks perfect basically. This side says it's a little high, but over here it splits right about there. So, should be good. Steering shaft looks good. Check this. Over here's a power steering fluid, and yeah, it could use a service too, just like your truck, about the same condition. It's a little, it's not terrible, but it could be done. If you look at this side of the motor, it's looking pretty dry. You might have a moisture build up there in the corner, really small. But over here on this side, you can definitely see bigger issues. It's pretty wet over here, and it's starting to actually run down the whole cylinder head, which yours was dry below that.
I
So
see.
in this case, you would need a new valve cover gasket, which is the gasket underneath this whole cover.
Brake fluid?
It's actually halfway clean. I've already seen this truck, so I looked at it really good, and it didn't seem to be in any wreck. The one thing I did not like is someone did the trailer wiring, and if you look at these are about the worst connectors you could ever put into a wiring. It's the splice connectors, and you see all the buildup of the corrosion. So it's got a lot of corrosion on it already. So it's a sign that you know
They're not sealed.
it's not sealed, and you're gonna have issues basically. And his spare needs some air in it. Just visually, you can feel it. It's low. I already did the services on the front and rear differential. They were the worst differentials I've seen, other than a couple others recently. This one was caked with metal shavings. Yeah, like I said, the brakes, drums and shoes, we had to do those front on the back here. The drums and shoes
So
are all
those are good
brand
now?
new because they were down to nothing. And the shocks on the thing, basically, you know, looking like someone might have replaced them. U-joints are tight, so that's good. He's not going to lose that on the trail. He'll rip a drive shaft off. Coming out the transmission, the fluid was actually pretty clean in this thing when I looked at it. Main problem is the oil leaks you're seeing here, and you're seeing after driving it a while and going up the probably Gold Hill Ascent, that valve cover has just been dripping down, and it's actually filling up the starter right there. And once that starter gets bathed in oil long enough, the starter's going to go bad as well. And usually I give these catalytic converters just a little bit of a smack, because if they're bad, sometimes you'll have a little rattle in the honeycomb inside. But they're pretty tight and feel good. And we'll check these U-joints. This actually has axle shafts in the front end with U-joints, so it's a different setup. And you gotta make sure there's no play in them and feel pretty tight. And I guess next, let's do a little checking on these ball joints and tie rod ends like we did the other one, because overall the other stuff's looking halfway decent. That one's very loose. You can see it slopping.
Whoa.
Oh yeah, that's really loose. So it's to the point where, you know, it's getting very, very dangerous to be driving this thing, in my opinion, because of the safety. Oh Lord. So this is your pitman arm, your power steering box.
Yeah.
The arm pivots when you turn the steering wheel, and this ball and socket turns your wheel.
Yeah.
So if this gets any looser than that and goes tink, it's going to snap off flush, and then you lose your complete steering assembly. Safety wise, this one's definitely a lot worse than the other one. Basically needs the complete front end assembly, in my opinion. We're going to see here, this usually a track bar. It holds the axle in place. You can see it bolts up to the axle here and bolts up to the frame. It actually keeps that axle from moving side to side and keeps it in place. And it does have a little play in it as well, which any play like that, all the little play in these add up to a lot of play in the long run, and that'll actually make the whole thing shimmy more than you want and be looser than you want. And you would probably never know driving this thing down the road. It probably drives pretty good. But to a mechanic's eyes, when you see stuff like this, it's when you see them break and see people roll their vehicle and they possibly die, it's safety, and you don't want to mess around with safety. It's serious. It's park it or fix it, is what I tell people. You know, I can keep going on and on. There's a little transmission leak here. You can see she's been leaking down here. So that clamp, double clamp setup someone's got on there's going bad with the hose over here.
So the tires are good, right?
Tires are nice, but they're not going to be good for long because the steering and the ball joints are so loose. It's going to make one tread high, one tread low, one tread high, one low. That's called cupping, uneven. And because it's moving and it wears them unevenly. So yeah, they're nice for now, but if he doesn't spend a couple thousand to fix it, I give him about 10,000 miles and these are going to start looking nice and, you know, cupped.
So Nathan, there you go. There's your truck.
Please wear your seatbelt whenever driving it.
All right, guys, so I've already blown my $5,000 budget entirely on the truck, but I do have a $1,500 budget from realtruck.com, and what I have to do is I need power. I really need it. I want sound, and I need a couple other things, so I'm gonna get them right now. Flowmaster Flow FX Catback Exhaust System, $489.95. F5 Dodge Flash Pack, $383.95. Gator Trifold Pro Tonneau Cover, $329.29. Windjet OE Style Replacement Fog Lights, $26.38. According to my calculations, it comes out to just over $1,221. Still some room in the budget.
So that step is to get into that box.
This is the Thule. And they painted it white, dude. Come on now, that's a couple bonus points.
What?
This is brake light on the gas. There's my e-brakes on.
No, it's something else.
But that's not on there.
No, it just came on like last week.
You got a brake light on, and it's an emergency brake light, so that's why I'm shaking my head. But usually you should be able to let it off and it shut off. So there's a switch under there that shuts it off, or when you low on brake fluid, because when your brakes get lower, it sucks more fluid down, you get low, it'll kick that light on too, so we'll have to inspect the brake fluid.
Okay.
They'll tell us.
What do you think about the smell of the cabin?
I think it's gonna need a thorough, deep cleanse.
Now it's up to Roman's truck. This is a 2004 Ford F-150 four-wheel drive, regular cab, XL, and it's the second in price. The Chevy was $3,200. Now this truck we purchased for $3,700, and it's the newest. Let's see what it is. Well, this engine is kind of hidden in the back there. Huh?
They pushed it back as far as they could on this unit. Try to keep that weight back though. Yeah, coolant's a little iffy in this one. It looks like it's got a little crusties in there build up. Someone put green coolant in it at one time. These call for something different than green, but I've never really seen them cause an issue on this old Ford. Ooh, that's real bad in there. You see the on top, the floaties?
Yes.
Yeah, sparkly floaties, so that's probably some water inside there, and it definitely needs a brake fluid flush. Power steering fluid's actually clean on it. Oil leak wise, on this side of the motor, it's looking really dry. So the drive belt on this thing is the serpentine belt, and it's got some good dry cracks in it right here. You can see down here in the water pump pulley there, where my finger is, all those big cracks in it. Yeah. So it's definitely going to need a new drive belt there. So I can tell you instantly, if you look at how shiny, this is aluminum, so this is the intake manifold, and this is aluminum, this is the throttle body, the air goes in. You can see how shiny it is. This whole electronic throttle body unit's been replaced recently. Some of these Triton motors were famous for blowing spark plugs out. I don't know if you guys know that. So the threads on the cylinder heads are really short, so they don't thread much spark plug into the head, and they have issues actually ripping the threads out of the cylinder heads. So let's just, look the other way, and we'll think these are, probably good,
Yeah.
And most of the time I do them, it would be a 5.4 Triton. Most of the time I fix them, it's a 5.4 or a V10. We'll check this tranny fluid and see what it looks like real quick. Oh, yeah, it's clean, red, looks good. Oil's clean, but it's definitely low. I would recommend at least half a quart of oil in it because it's definitely low. Let's do a quick battery test on this one. Got some corrosion buildup on it too. Gonna need to do a battery service. Yeah, it says it's a decent battery. It is a little low on cold cranking, but it will be fine for a few more years. I would not, tell a customer it needs one yet. Seems like everyone you got in has a little bit of towing capability, huh?
Yeah, well, that's what we do at TFL Truck. We like to tow.
Well, it's, kind of useless having a vehicle that's a truck and not having tow capabilities.
Yeah. And look at this spare tire, beefy.
Only if the others were as beefy as it, right?
Well, these are 20s, dude.
Do you see the wear bars?
Yes.
They're down to nothing. That's a wear bar, and when you hit the wear bar, time to replace them.
So those are disc brakes in there.
Yeah, unlike the Dodge, this one does have discs in the rear. And they're not terribly old. You can tell someone put some O'Reilly's Select ceramic pads on it, and new rotors actually. They probably have about 75 to 80% of pad life left, which is more than enough.
That's a good news.
So the shocks overall, you can tell, are dry, and I don't see no issue there. And that one's just been rubbing on the shield. Got a really thin body on this unit. Explains all the small dents it has. So basically, no play in those. Just check through some play again. Overall, that's normal. A little bit of play. So when I wiggle this drive shaft here, you can see up in here there's a bushing, and that's for the front differential, which is right here. So when I wiggle it just by hand, you can see that moving, which is not good. That means eventually that bushing and probably a few other bushings that hold the front differential in are going to have to be replaced. And then another culprit of an oil leak here. Looks like Jiffy Lube's been changing the oil. Here, this blue mark's usually a Jiffy Lube thing. And you can see a little oil seeping out of the drain plug. So the drain plugs actually probably needs a new gasket on it. It looks like there's a very minimal oil leak actually on this one from the back of the motor. And the oil pan gasket up there is really small. Actually, compared to the other two, it's, very minimal. This is a transmission cooler hose. And you can see the red fluid actually coming out of it. It's a crimped fitting with a rubber hose in the middle, and it's on its way to, it's going to start leaving puddles on the ground shortly. Basically, I think we'll check some of these ball joints next and check some of the tie rods next on this unit and go from there. I don't see anything major on the CV boots. Alright, tie rod's good. Yeah, those are tight, so that's good.
Yeah, this is a tiny bit.
Yeah, very minimal, but there's play there. And that one feels tight actually. Just a little bit of play in that one as well. Alright, yep. Good to go on that behalf.
I don't know, Roman. Your Ford, Toby was telling me it's a big mess.
Well, it does have over 200,000 miles, but it is built Ford tough, Andre, whatever that means.
Actually, I'm kidding.
No, it's in good
Actually,
shape.
this truck is, what would you say? So you've seen all three trucks. Which truck is the best?
Now you're putting me on the spot. Oh, you definitely you take that Dodge and you put it off to the side because it needs too much work and it's safety at this point to be. So then that leaves you with that leaves you with two to choose from, in my opinion.
Ford tough or built like a rock.
And in my opinion, I'm not a big Ford guy, but I do like them. I would probably pick the Ford.
So if it were your $5,000, this is the one you'd buy.
Price-wise, how much you spent on this one, you have some money to play with. Yeah. The Dodge, you're way over budget, you lost money, you're in the hole. And then the Chevy is the second best. But this one, I think it's reliability and what's wrong with it, leak-wise, it's going to be the best.
Wow, all right. And
which you wouldn't expect.
Did you tell them that the brake light sometimes comes on?
Yeah.
We saw that.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's got fluid in it.
Yeah.
Which there's a sensor here, so that tells me.
The brake pads are there.
Yeah, brake pads are there, unlike the Dodge.
Okay. All right. Yep. Winner, chicken dinner. Let me show you what I got, because I'm making mine into a badass off-roader. So I got the lift kit, Eibach Pro truck 2 to 3 inch, $586. Of course, I had to get the shocks, $103, very reasonable. And if you're gonna lift the front, you might as well get the brackets to lift the back. Those are the rear lift block kit from Eibach Pro, $149. Now I blew a lot of money on tires because, well, tires are the key to good off-roading. These are Cooper Discoverer heavy-duty truck tires, SST Pro tire, $330.99. And let's face it, my Ford has pretty cruddy lights, so why not get a little bit more light from these Havoc Off-Road Trail Series LED cube lights. They're $129, and you got to get these little brackets that mount to the hinge. Oops, lost it. There they are. Yeah, the brackets are more expensive than the lights, $147.85, go figure. And finally, why not get a little extra light on the trail for when the two others break down? It's the E-Tang E-Light, $91. Now, considering I only spent $3,700 on my truck, I thought it was fair to spend $2,633.76 on the parts. Yeah, I did go over budget a little bit, but I did go under budget on the truck. So in the end, it's all even.
Well, guys, there you have it. I cannot believe it, but the Ford, according to Toby, is really in best condition. I was hoping my truck would be, but what are you gonna do? But stay tuned, because next time we're gonna actually put all the real truck parts, additional lifts and lights and all the other accessories on, and then we're gonna go to Moab.
Is this going to Moab? Is that the
Yes.
going to Moab,
Yes.
Andre? All right, yeah, we're gonna make these trucks something that can tackle hell's revenge, because right now they might tackle fins and things, but
No,
hell's
right now
revenge.
they might tackle a highway. With Toby's recommendation, we fixed all the critical issues with all three trucks before our journey to Moab, Utah. Next time on To Hell and Back.
Welcome to Moab, Utah. It's time to take on hell's revenge.
Oh yeah!
Oh my God. I think you went with a pirate theme.
My pirate theme is ready.
Oh, it's gonna scrape. Oh yeah! Oh yeah! And I need to maintain my momentum, I think, because if I don't, bad things will start to happen.
Okay, transmission didn't like that very much. It used to be round, and it's not anymore. There's a chunk of Moab coming home with us.